Hi there, I'm Dean Heskett. Thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast, The Secret War on Cash, where we take a deep dive or a hard look into some of the changing things in our financial system, our economy, economies of the globe, if you will, or the world, as some would say, probably more appropriately. I have with me my co-host, Chris Agolestos. Chris, good morning to you.
Good morning.
As we're getting ready to do this, today we're going to talk, as you know, about the Fed and banking and things of that nature. And I don't know where I got this, but years ago, I usually have a pencil or a pen in my hand as we're doing this, and somebody had given me this pencil, and it's wrapped. I don't know if you can see it, but with the $100 bill.
Yeah.
And what's funny, I'm thinking to myself, the currency value that's on this pencil is probably not all that much different than the actual currency value of the dollar these days in terms of what actually is represented there. This is 100, so it'd be a little more extreme. But, well, let's talk about banking and what's going on there. And actually, I believe as we look at this first article, we have followed on this podcast alone a ton about what's been happening with banks, how monies have been seized from depositors, how people have lost access to their accounts, some of the other problems with, bank closures, just the whole gamut. Too many to cover here in short order. The interesting thing is with this article, talking about how these hackers have been getting, I found this an interesting way they explained it, juicy information containing Americans' banking secrets. And what I found interesting about it's a Russian hacker group. And I know Russia as well as China, I believe, are probably two of the largest in terms of people trying to hack into various things, not only here in the United States, but throughout the world.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of Lockbit before, and I don't know if you have, and you're going to tell us here in a moment. But this is a big deal. I mean, as I read through the article, looking at some of the kind of the facts and figures that are provided or given there, the Fed the government is offering up to $15 million reward for people who can help, arrest and or convict these people who are participating in this.
Yeah.
So this is a thing. And I don't want to steal all the thunder here because I want you to tell us a little bit more about it, but it blew my mind. Over 144 million in ransom payments have already been made. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about this. I mean, this sounds like a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And that 144 million number, the first thing I thought was, I'm sure all of the ransom has not been reported, right? I don't know if I don't think these guys are filing their taxes, and not everybody that gets shaken down is probably, sharing what the ransom payments are. So that's just what we know about. So it's likely much bigger.
That's not to interrupt you. That's an excellent point too, because when you hear about these hacks and whatever else, that's a public relations nightmare. You're probably right. Where it would behoove a lot of these institutions to kind of keep this on the DL as much as possible anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, investors, clients, people freak out when they hear these things, right? Even mild hacks where, my phone number might have been in a hack or something like that, let alone banking information. So, or anything sensitive, but yeah, so they're definitely something to be, reckoned with. And I like how, even in this article, they say, well, we really don't know for sure. They haven't released a lot of evidence of the data. We want them to show us what they have. Yet, if the U.S. is offering up to 15 million per person that is captured or information that leads to their capture, obviously they're taking it very seriously. So, and I think what's interesting here too is regarding the Federal Reserve, there's been so much speculation over the years about whether or not the Federal Reserve still has gold backing our dollar, our gold reserves, right? And, where it is and if it's been moved or if it's been sold off or used to finance other operations. So the fact that these hackers have, some sort of information that obviously could be damaging. And they mentioned in here that they're speaking with some sort of negotiator, over this ransom payment. So, I don't know exactly, what they're asking for yet. We may never know, but it's curious. I'm curious to see. And the thing about this is too, I was thinking, hackers never release positive information, right? So this isn't something that might not be bad for the Federal Reserve. If paparazzi is digging through trash cans and they find out George Clooney isn't cheating on his wife, they're not going to publish that information. So there's really no benefit here for the Federal Reserve. It's all bad. Anything that comes out about it, I think, is going to be negative. And it's just one more way that it seems like we're being attacked through our banking system, our dollar. We talk about BRICS a lot. It's just like one more thing that the U.S. is having to deal with right now.
Oh, yeah. George Clooney's cheating on his wife?
No, well, I don't know, but, probably not. Hopefully he's smarter than that. She seems like a very nice lady.
No, I've been to see. All of that. I mean, it is, that is $15 million per throw. That is, because this clearly is not one person sitting behind their computer and doing it.
Right.
I'm sure a whole consortium of people involved in this thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's on the same topic as banking.
Mm-hmm.
In this next article, I wanted to bring this in, which really has nothing to do per se with the first article, but there's a little bit of a twist here. We've talked about before, and it's all over the news. Banks are dumping real estate loans. Commercial especially has been just getting destroyed or on the verge of, what some have said it would be a collapse, which we hope doesn't happen. But to be clear, there's definitely a lot of underlying problems associated with banks, loans they have outstanding. And we've seen, corporations, San Francisco as an example, we talked about that, how like so many businesses have pulled out of there, leaving commercial property just vacant. And so this one, how banks are dumping real estate loans, the little twist that I found interesting in this article and why I wanted to kind of just talk about it for a bit is it mentions in here how one of the properties in Manhattan that was unloaded had to do with George Soros, the billionaire investor George Soros. And, this is I believe he picked up this property. And as I read this, I'm like, there we go. Like you find that whenever these bad things are happening in markets, it's no coincidence you find George Soros kind of involved. And I know there are a lot of people, especially those who, be considered like more, fringe in terms of their political views, et cetera. And I don't think it's fringe. I think it's just being, aware of your surroundings. But kind of explain a little bit about what's taking place here and how serious is this problem right now?
Well, I think it's really just the beginning of a commercial lending crisis, that we'll probably see in the coming year, next year or two. Look, banks aren't offloading these commercial loans because they're great, positive investments that they're not concerned about, right? I mean, they're here to make money, and so they're not going to, get rid of anything that's working well for them or doesn't pose a large risk. They're specifically trying to cut their losses here. And, it's no wonder, right? We've talked about high interest rates and low occupancy. You've got a lot of vacant commercial buildings out there. And it takes time to repurpose those buildings. We're seeing some of it here in Phoenix, some shopping malls being converted into housing and things like that. And so, maybe over the course of 5 to 10 years, you can see some positive changes. But in the meantime, the people holding those notes, the banks, are going to take a big hit. And, and like with George Soros, he's one of those guys that he likes to profit off other people's or other businesses' misfortune. And it sort of seems like he almost helps create that misfortune so he has an opportunity to come in and profit. So I think people are
those are your words, not mine. I'm not saying I disagree with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, he may be a regular viewer, so but hopefully he doesn't take that out on me personally. But he's probably got an evil grin, smiling and acknowledging it. But so I think people have a reason to be concerned about all of this. I think it is just sort of the tip of the iceberg, and we're going to see more and more of it. Nobody's expecting interest rates to come down anytime soon. We've still got major inflation issues, so unfortunately, we're at the beginning of this bumpy road, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you tuning in, this is our banking system today. Like it or not, this is where we're at. Certainly, there is it's an onion that literally you peel layer after layer after layer, only to find more and more layers. And there are probably some people, Chris, who are tuning into this who, and I would to some extent put myself in this camp. We've heard for a lot of years now about, problems with the debt, problem with the banks. And, the common tendency there might be to say, well, look, we've heard this forever and nothing's happened. And that is very true. It's valid. However, nothing happens until ultimately something does happen. And if you're not ready for what does happen, if some of these problems like banks closing, currency running into issues, et cetera, if you haven't taken some steps prior to that, that once it does occur, it's too late. So with this said, this is the encouragement I have for you tuning in. If you have not already contacted us to get your free copy of our report entitled The Secret War on Cash, just the same as this podcast, please do so. You can call us at 1-800-289-2646 or visit us online at www.swissamerica, all one word, .com. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not already subscribed to this podcast, we'd love you to do so. And Chris, thanks for all the information there. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot. Take care.